or go.
There's like, no people. Then you can start seeing people come on. Otherwise, you start talking. I learned this a long time ago. You start talking and there's nobody there. Tell me when people start clicking on. And then all of a sudden everybody starts coming on.
Okay.
So then like the first
30 seconds into
there's
it.
nobody listening to you, so it doesn't make sense too.
There's no point in introducing yourself.
Yeah. All right, we're starting to get some folks.
13.
This is going to be such an exciting night. I guess we're going to start because it's time. We don't have a lot of time if you're listening to this and going to look at it on the recorded version. But this is Danielle, who's an HR person that works for a medical company. And she was on our list of patients to take our class called Chin and Jawline at our School Aesthetic Mentor. And when this new product, Volux, came out, which as you know is a brand new filler from the Juvéderm family, and I was at a training a few weeks ago. We spent a whole weekend learning all about it, and it's going to be a game changer for you guys, believe me. But Brittany, my assistant tonight, who's an NP, and said, we got to find somebody. So she called Danielle after looking through some photographs and said, I think she'd be the perfect patient for the Chin and Jawline class, but let's just bring her in and treat her as a model tonight, live, under the lights, and make her a real star. So she's going to be our Chin and Jawline patient. I'll explain more as we go forward. But I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about Volux. So now we've got Juvéderm Ultra. I was telling Danielle this just a few minutes ago. Juvéderm Ultra, Juvéderm Ultra Plus, Volbella, Volure, Voluma, and now Volux. So Volux is basically like Juvéderm's big brother, right? Juvéderm Voluma's big brother. So if you look at Volux compared to Voluma, you're going to find some incredible differences. When we talk about G prime, as you know, which is the ability of a product to withstand deforming forces, and basically how much lift it has, Volux has twice the G prime of Voluma. So I know that doesn't mean anything to you.
No.
But it means that when we're trying to raise areas, like really create some lifting, this product is twice as powerful as Voluma. And Voluma was the strongest product we had in many ways. So this is like a whole new level.
Okay.
And then when you look at cohesivity, which is the ability of the product to stick together, this has 3 times the cohesivity of Voluma. So it's a product that when you put it down, it stays put and it does its job. Now, the primary goal of Volux is to enhance the jawline and the chin, and it really shouldn't be used in any other place because it's too stiff. So when you put it in, it acts like bone. It looks like bone. It doesn't feel like bone. It feels like a gel, but when it hardens, it really does create a very impressive jawline and chin. So the people that were at this meeting, many of them were Europeans, and they've had this product for 3 to 4 years. And they've injected many, many patients with it. And they were all very consistent with their messaging, saying, do not use it in the cheeks. Do not use it in other areas. It's too stiff. Don't use it in this part of the chin. It's really just meant for bony prominences. And when you use it that way, you're going to love it. They also said don't underestimate the power of this product. Small amounts of the product can really create a very significant improvement in contour. So there is a learning curve with it. It is approved, FDA approved on label for cannula use and needle. So you can choose your weapon as you always could, but now it's actually on label for this product. Also talking to the Europeans about it, they believe that small amounts can go a long way. But I asked them also about longevity, because longevity is always an issue for patients because it's money, right? Like the longer a product lasts, the less often you have to use it. But also it ends up being more expensive because people charge more for products that last longer, right? Some of the people, the FDA trial only went out 1 year, but clinically the other docs think it might last up to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Which is very impressive. So we won't know for a few years.
Okay.
But this is what I was told. So the idea here is to use this and to create a nice contour. So in order to do that, we have to figure out what we're going to contour. So what we were able to do in Danielle is we took some photographs of her and just did some basic facial analyses of her. And the most striking thing we saw was that she has a nice mid-face and upper face, but the lower third of her face, you see, is dramatically short. Her chin is really quite short. And if you look at it in the lateral view, she's pretty retrognathic. And as we know, if we draw a line down from the lips, the chin should be about 2 millimeters behind that line. And you can see here she's probably like 5 or 6. So she's retrognathic, she's lacking height and she's lacking projection. But if we look at her in the anterior view, you can see that the width of the chin in a woman should equal the width of the medial canthus, and you see that it does in her. Now in a man, we wouldn't be looking for this at all. You also know in a woman, the face should be fairly sort of triangular or oval, and it is in her. And I think also in her case, she has a little bit of flattening in the malar area. So if we were doing this, privately, not on, Instagram tonight, we were probably going to fill her volume of her cheeks to really create that sort of foundation for her, and then add to the jawline after we figured out how wide her bimaxillary distance should be. And as you know, in a woman, this bimaxillary distance should be bigger than the bigonial distance, right? And in a man, it should be the same. In some cases, the man could even be trapezoidal, like some of these men who have like big masseters, Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and those guys. It looks attractive, but their masseters are so big, their faces are sort of trapezoidal. You'd never want that in a woman. So in her case, we're going to do this for demonstration purposes only. The other things we can look at for her, or for women in general, is this angle, this gonial angle, in a woman should be 120 to 130 degrees. As we get older, that sort of flattens out. In a man, it should be about 120 or less, and the cervical mental angle should be about 105 to 120. And she's pretty good there. But we don't even know, I can't even tell you what this angle is because I can't see the bone. I can't see what it is. So we'll sort of draw that out for her. But before we do any injecting, we really need to talk about anatomy, because I've seen so many times when injectors are going after certain things, they're going after areas of weakness or fullness, and they're trying to add support or add volume. They forget what's underneath, and I've seen people inject into the mental the mental foramen. I've seen people go into the parotid gland. I've seen people do all kinds of things, because once you start chasing, let's say, a volume deficit, if you aren't thinking about what's underneath it, that can cause a real problem. So let's just talk quickly about the anatomy here. As you know, bite down hard for a sec. The masseter muscle is a primary muscle of mastication, as it is here. It goes all the way down to the bottom of the jaw, so we know if we're going to be injecting deep here, we're going to have to be going through masseter. We know there's going to be a lot of restrictions in that. We also know that, bite down hard again, at the anterior border of the masseter, we have the facial artery and vein. We know the facial artery kind of goes up over this way and gives rise to the superior and inferior labial arteries. We know off the facial artery, because the submental artery here, particularly important since we're going to be injecting along the jawline. We know the facial vein kind of goes up this way, so that's kind of a little bit out of the way. So in this area, if we're injecting in this area, we have to be really careful, because you don't want to injure the facial vein or the facial artery. I mean, it would be really difficult. So I think when you're starting out, I would just put an X over this area saying, I don't want to inject there. Then I like to sort of draw lines to sort of define what I can feel in terms of her bone, so I know exactly where I want to be. And then she's got a jowl here, so we're not going to inject in the jowl, so I'm going to draw an X over that. Also, there's a parotid gland here. Right, there's a parotid gland in front of the ear that goes kind of in this direction. We know there's a big retromandibular vein that goes back here, so we want to be really careful when we're behind the mandible, behind the angle of the mandible. We know that there's a mental foramen right here, where you've got an artery, a vein, and a nerve coming out. So, at least when you're injecting in those areas, if you look and sort of see what's there, you can imagine that, if I go too deep there, I'm going to be in the parotid, or I'm going to be close to that artery or vein. So just draw some of the anatomy out for yourself, so when you're actually injecting, you're going to be accurate. I'm going to go to the other side for a minute. So I'm going to mark out what we're going to do, now that you kind of know a little bit about the anatomy. So if you could give me a tongue depression for sure. So I'm going to put my 2 fingers on the angle of the mandible, which is right here for her. I'm also going to mark out her jowl. She's, 38, Tanya?
36.
36, sorry, I aged prematurely. And we don't want to inject when there are areas of fullness. We call these like no-fly zones, because why would you want to add volume to an area which is also excessive in volume? We know that, write down hard for a second. The anterior border of her masseter is right here. So I'm going to try to avoid going deep at all there. I'm going to, thank you. I'm going to use I like to use a tongue depressor because it just helps keep things level. So I'll just put it right at where her jawline is, so that way I can just draw it and keep it straight. She's got here a pre-jowl sulcus. She's got a little post-jowl sulcus there, and then the anterior ramus of her mandible is right about here. So my plan is going to be to try to create this for her. She doesn't really have much bony prominence, so I want to create a nice sort of the appearance of a bony prominence for her. So the first thing we're going to do is bolus here. And then from there, I'm going to do some vertical threads here to kind of create a little pullback for her, but also to create the appearance of that horizontal, that vertical ramus. Then I'm going to put some product here. I think when you're starting out, if I know the facial artery and vein are coming here, maybe we'll inject this way. We'll inject posteriorly, so we're always moving away from the artery and vein. We're not going to inject here because that's part of the jowl. Then the pre-jowl sulcus, maybe we'll do a little bolus there, and we'll do some threads here. And really for her, the nice thing is we do want to extend her chin, as we talked about. So we're going to do some bolusing with the Volux right down to the bone. When you're treating up in this area, it's okay to use voluma, because that's a nice product to fill this out. You don't want to use Volux up here. You really only want to stay on bones. Same thing over here. If you want to put some product in the superficial fat pad here, you would use voluma. But really for here, Volux, Volux, nothing, Volux, Volux, Volux. And if we're going to be up here, which we probably will be, in this mental crease, we're going to use voluma. For those of you who are watching and want to continue watching, I'll do the whole thing. But for those of you who are watching this on a replay of Instagram, it's going to shut off in 2 minutes and 36 seconds because we only get 15 minutes of video time now. So if you do want to see the rest of it, you can go to our YouTube channel and you'll see the whole thing. But you're welcome to stay here tonight, and I probably have another 15-20 minutes of injecting, etc. to do. So feel free to do it. We also are teaching chin and jawline classes at the Aesthetic Institute of Massachusetts, which is now called Aesthetic Mentor. We have classes in Connecticut and in Massachusetts and Waltham, Mass. And we invite you to come. We are going to be using Volux. We're going to be adding that to the class. It won't be commercially available to all of you until mid to late January. So I'm here to try to promote this for you, kind of give you a little bit of a head start so you understand. You can start thinking about the process of how you evaluate these patients and then how you inject them safely. If there are any questions, feel free, Angelina or Brittany will shout them out. I'm happy to answer anything as we get going. Are there any questions before we start?
Nope, we're good. We're ready to go.
So our goal is going to be to first start right here in the corner. I'm going to wipe all these lines off now, but I just wanted to show you what my thoughts are about it. And again, it's going to mimic bone. It's going to look like bone. It's going to take about 48 hours to set up, right? So when we put it in, we don't want the patient to be moving around and sort of sleeping on it or rubbing it or anything. Just leave it alone. Let it get 48 hours so it gels and becomes, pretty integrated into the tissues, and then you'll be really happy with it. And sometimes because it has such a high G prime and such a high cohesivity, patients have reported some discomfort, maybe a little more so than some of the other products, because it really can stretch the tissue a little bit. So don't be surprised, and maybe tell patients a little bit about that. In the patients we've injected so far, we have not seen that. Brittany's mom was the first patient we injected, at least that I injected, and we did, 13 syringes or something in her.
13, yeah.
I think we did about 5 Volux, and we did the rest of her face, because I think it's nice to show the whole face. Like when you're doing someone's chin and jawline. Danielle's 36, so she doesn't have much. But she's really bothered by the fact that she feels so soft. She said she feels like her neck and her jaw are just connected. There's like no separation between the two. Is that what you told me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this will hopefully allow that area to stand out. All right. Did we hit our 15-minute mark?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So those of you who are watching, please stay with us. I'm going to put Danielle back because I like injecting it with the patient lying back. Need some 10W40 for that. I think it's much more comfortable for the patients, and I think that it's much more comfortable for me. And I always, grew up operating on patients with them lying back, so I'm very comfortable with that. I think it gives them a degree of support and comfort too, because when they're lying back, they're not flailing, they don't see needles and syringes coming at them, and they're comfortable that way. So here's our Volux. They're all, as you know, color coded. This has got this nice sort of aqua bluish color, I guess I'd call it. So we'll start.
They're asking how many syringes would she need, or how many do you anticipate her needing?
I'm going to do probably two on each side. Probably a total of 4. In the clinical trials, as they just use them like crazy, they often use a lot more. But she's 36. She's got decent bone, but she just doesn't have enough sort of bony structure. And by virtue of seeing that she was retrognathic and sort of short vertically as well, that she doesn't have a very big mandible, right? Because otherwise she would have a very full chin like Brittany, Angela, and myself. So that's your first clue. So I'm figuring we'll do 2 each side. I don't really know, but we'll find out in a second. So the first injection, you feel free to ask questions, Angela, we'll just squirt them out or yell them out while I'm talking. So I'm going to put my 2 fingers right on the gonium, and we go straight in. I'm going right down the bone. I'll just quickly aspirate. I'm good. So I'm going to put in, I don't know, we'll see, 0.2, 0.3 cc's. How you doing with that, okay?
Mm-hmm. Dr. Russo, we have another question.
Yeah.
It says, so with Volux in the vertical columns pre-auricular, is that on bone? So that would be...
Yeah, so, I think most of the injections are not on bone. The only time I'm going to be on bone is when I'm bolusing like I just did. When I'm moving this way or this way, you have to be subcutaneous. At least that's really the only way you can do it. Because if you think about it, the masseter is attached to the bone all the way down to here, right? And if you're going underneath the masseter, which is a strong, thick muscle, you have a lot of trouble. It's like trying to inject the temple, trying to raise all those layers of tissue. So the subcutaneous space is really where you should be. And a lot of people prefer to use cannula there, and that's fine. But it's the deep subcutaneous space is where I am.
And as you're pushing that through, what does that extrusion force feel like compared to the other products?
It feels almost, that's a very good question, because it's actually deceivingly easy. It feels like I'm injecting voluma, maybe even a little bit less. So they're saying don't let that mislead you, because there really is hardly any significant difference between the two with respect to the extrusion force. So I'm also going to mark that pre-jowl so I'm also going to mark the jowl so I know not to inject there. Now I'm going to go and do the post-jowl sulcus. So I can put my finger there. I'm going to inject this way, moving away from the artery and vein, and go directly to the back. And so far I've injected a little over half a cc. And I'm going to just do a couple of threads, retrograde threads. And the other nice thing about it, even though it's so cohesive, it's moldable. I just kind of pushed it and created a nice smoothing out of the product. It's kind of crazy that it's this cohesive, but yet you can still mold it before it really has time to set up. So I like that.
They're asking the needle size.
So it comes with a 27 gauge half-inch, just like voluma. But I find that to be way too short. So I've had Brittany get me a 25 gauge 1-inch and a 25 gauge 1.5 inch. The cannula that it comes with, if you use a cannula, is 25 gauge 1.5 inch. You kind of need something longer when you're going over these long distances. So I've chosen that length. This is a 1-inch 25. So it comes out very, very easily. I'm going to do just a little bit more right behind the gonium. Perfect. All right, so we got one syringe in. What was that like for you on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of pain?
A 1.
A 1. Okay, so that's good. That's good. Those Europeans don't know what they're talking about. All right, so I'm going to go and do a little bit in the pre-jowl sulcus. So again, here's this what we call the no-fly zone, because There's a jawline, so I don't want to add any volume where she's already got too much. And when you add volume here, we're hopefully getting some pullback that way. And if I need to put a little bit more in that retrotragal space or the pretragal space, I will. But let's do this area here first. And remember, in her case, her width is pretty good, but it's her height and her projection that's lacking. So you can do a combination. You can do multiple little boluses on the bone. You can do a combination of them. You can stay in this sort of subcutaneous plane. You can do whatever you want, but I wouldn't go very high. If you're going to be doing anything up here, you should be using voluma. Do a little bolus just at the very front of that. I'll probably do a 0.2. She's kind of thin there. I'll do 0.1 or 0.2. That's probably a little pinchy. Mm-hmm. Just remember, your mental framing's right up there, so we're going to stay below that. You don't want to do anything that's going to cause a problem there. I can see, I'm going to give her, she's a little bit flat here. I'm going to do a couple little boluses here to make her a little bit longer and narrower. You know the nice thing about this, Danielle? Mm. There's some numbing medicine in the product. Mm-hmm. So it should get a little bit number as we go. You just have to come in. But I'm going slowly. Not putting a lot in. I also noticed that when she was animating, she does have a lot of activity of the mentalis. So if you want to put a little voluma in this area to do some myomodulation of the mentalis, that would be good for her. Because she's had such sort of active mentalis, and it kind of creates a deeper mental crease and kind of pulls her chin up a little bit, makes it look a little shorter. When we fill it in with some voluma here, I think we're going to make it look a little bit longer as well. So when we do our photos, we'll do like post-op photos in 2 weeks, and we'll do a full face for her, and then so you can see what that really looks like. But I don't know if you guys can see this, but this already looks so much better. I don't know if you guys can see it. I mean, so I've used almost 2 cc's. I've got a little bit left, but look how just sculpted and shaped it is. I feel like I should put a little bit more right out here because this is really where she needs it. I'll do maybe another little bolus right there. I really want to accentuate it. But it's kind of fun to see the shaping and the sculpting happening so quickly. That was really helpful. That was that 2 cc's?
2.
Wow. She was just swallowing the stuff right up. That's good. That was kind of what we had planned anyway. So I'm going to do that. Any other questions about it?
There's a question about if somebody likes their cleft chin, is there a way to add filler while maintaining the natural cleft?
Just stay out of the cleft. I mean, you can go. Usually the cleft is like really deep and kind of attached to bone, and sometimes to remove it. And I've tried. People have come in and had me try filling dimples. It's hard. I think if you just stay under it, but don't inject right into it. Don't subcise it. Don't release it from its attachments. The cleft will stay intact. And if you want to enhance it, you could obviously inject each side of it to make the cleft deeper. But just stay out of it. Let's do it. So we have another syringe to work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have a voluma as well.
All right. So let's do some voluma here.
Yeah.
Let's do one side. Let's try to complete one side, and we'll see what that looks like. So I'll put that on the 1 inch. Yeah. I've used 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, whatever works best for you. We're gonna just work up in this area. So here you've got to be careful not to be too deep because, as you know, the inferior labial artery often travels right below the mental crease. So like you're very close to it. And also when you look inside the mouth, like if you go deep here, you're going to actually be in the mouth. So in this area you have to be careful. You have to be superficial. I like to do my fanning techniques. Okay. Sometimes if you sort of subsize the mental crease like I'm doing right now with the tip of the needle, it releases that and really lets it pop up for you. And we've got a product that's got a lot of G' and cohesivity associated with it. That's voluma. And remember I said don't use Volux anywhere above the chin and jawline because it's just too thick and it really won't let them animate normally and they'll be very unhappy. So I'm going to put a half a cc here and probably a half a cc on the other side. Very nice.
They wanted to just take a look at the other side for comparison, so I'm just going to switch
Good
around.
idea. And this product, you know, does take on water. So if you look at the spectrum of how hydrophilic the products are, as you know, Ultra and Ultra Plus are the most hydrophilic. Volbella is the least hydrophilic because it has the least amount of HA. Velour second, voluma third, and Volux takes on the most amount of water because it has the most amount of HA. Volbella has 15 milligrams. Velour has 17.5. Voluma has 20, and Volux has 25. So because there's more HA, it does draw on more water. So that's kind of nice because it really kind of gives you more augmentation as it gets into equilibrium with the tissues, which takes a week or so. So you can tell patients if they like it now, just wait a little bit, a week or two, and it's really going to take on water. And I tell them they get another 10 to 15% improvement. So what can we? Should we just sit her up? Would that be helpful? And we'll have her move her head from side to side. So you can sit right there. I'm just going to have the chair do all the work for you. You can just relax. All right? Ready to go out? You feel okay? All right. Sorry about that, chair. All right. So let's get you up at eye level. So let's show them the side that's. Does that light go on, Matt? Would that be helpful? Let's get a little closer. Yeah. So let's see the non-done side. So you can see kind of soft here. Here's her jowl. Can't really see the angle of the mandible. We can get rid of some of those lines too, I think. And then let's show them the good side. I think you can start to see that she's starting to show some beautiful definition here. We may want to add a little bit more here. I'm not sure yet. We'll evaluate it at the end. But we certainly are going to improve the length. We're going to put some more in here to sort of unwind that. Put some more voluma in there. So I think when she gets like that, it will really help. We'll probably put a little bit more in here. So, but you can sort of, if you look from the front, you can see she's got just
It looks beautiful.
length. She's got length from here.
Yeah, that looks really good.
So they're asking if you animate, open your mouth wide, or smile, is the filler moving with her naturally?
Let's find out. What do you want her to do?
Smile. Open your mouth. Yeah.
What else they want her to do?
I think just really smile. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really good. So I'm going to do the other side.
Wow.
We'll move over. And imagine if we had done her cheek, done her nasolabial fold, done her marionette lines, and then did this. And a lot of people are saying that it really improves the neck, like people who've done this for a long time. They said they get a lot of pull-up, and they show an improvement in the angle, the cervical mantle angle, which I do believe. I'm just going to mark this side out. So are you doing okay?
Yes.
Do you feel like your face is getting numb, or you're okay?
No. Chin hurt a little.
Yeah. The chin hurt a little because I went right on the bone,
Mhm.
and I apologize for that, but there's no other way to do that. But I'm going to use the tongue depressor. Did we lose it?
The tongue
I probably put it over here. I got it. Because her bone comes out here, but you'd never know. You know what I mean by looking at her face? There really is bone here. It doesn't look like it, but it really is. And so we'll work kind of in here. We'll bolus here. Kind of go to this way and go back. We'll go up this way. We'll bolus here. And I'm gonna put you back again. Cover your ears. Gonna be squeaky for a minute. Any questions about this? You guys liking the idea of Volux? It's pretty cool and exciting. And it's nice to have like 6 different products now from Allergan that we can use in all these different areas that are specifically designed to improve these areas. And I like doing the second side because you always learn so much from the first side. And this is, you know, kind of under the masser a little bit, so it's a little bit a harder injection for the patient. But it really does seem to work. And I'm going to go forward along the jawline here. Really nice. And I'm going to just change my angle. Do it a little bit more posteriorly here. There's no bone here, but I'm going to try to create some. Really nice. Let's just do a little bit more there on that vertical. Accentuate that just a little bit. And we'll just sculpt it a little bit to be sure that we're happy with all that. Thank you. And then we'll go in that pre-gel sulcus right here. I'm just going to smooth it out. It's like magic the way it smooths out. It's sort of shocking how well that works. And remember on the other side we did some voluma here, and I'm just going to put this really good. We'll bolus here. This is the part you didn't like on the other side. And I think we'll just come straight across like this. So it'd be interesting to see how much length we get from this, Brittany? You know how much length we get from the... Is that pinchy?
Not as bad as the other side.
Yeah. You know, sometimes when you put the product in, there's some numbing medicine in it, and it kind of like just diffuses into the tissue, so usually the second side's a little bit easier. You're doing great. How much we have left? That's the last one?
Yes, this is the last. We have
Okay.
0.25 Volux, and then we have the 0.5 voluma version.
It just looks so much better. The length already looks so much better.
Here's the angle right here.
Yeah.
Then we'll set her up in a minute and see what that looks like. And then we'll put the other half of the CC of voluma into this.
Voluma.
We did one injection into the pre-gel focus on the other side, so I feel like I've got to do the same here. Nice. That's good. Feel a little bit like a pin cushion. It's going to be worth it though. You're going to be very happy with it.
Feel it.
You can get a little bit more anterior projection. I'm just going to do one in the center. I can see I'm looking at her lip, and I think just still a little bit retronactive. But let's just try one right in the middle. Maybe the last little bit.
That's the voluma foam. That's a
voluma.
crease.
I'm sorry. I thought that was.
This is the voluma.
Yeah, I'll use more voluma. Yeah. Almost goes in too easy.
It's like butter.
You know what I mean?
So this is the voluma.
Okay. Any more questions, Angela?
Nothing that's popped up. Everyone's saying nice work, great job. She looks
Thank you.
great.
Appreciate that. We'll we'll do some more classes and talks about it. Maybe we'll get Brittany's mom and we can show her before and after. You know. Let me do just a little more of a limit, I think. Brittany, if you have
Sure.
another.
1 inch or half?
I'll do the 1 inch.
Mm-hmm. Gelatin.
That subcision technique, I think, really makes a difference. If you just kind of, I'm not actually injecting right now, I'm just sort of subcising it a little bit to create a little space and try to lift that. That's working. What else should we do? Okay, so I guess how long has it been? 35 minutes?
Yep.
All right, so let's just let's get all the lines off. We'll sit her up, and then we'll end the session unless you guys have more questions. I'm going to continue injecting her cheeks. Maybe a little in the mental crease. I'm not sure yet. Maybe a little bit in the nasolabial fold. So when you see her in 2 weeks, she'll have a full correction, a full facial correction, and we'll get those photographs and we'll put the lines on again to see how much closer we came to those perfect proportions.
They're asking for product training on Volux.
Yes.
So.
Aesthetic Mentor.
.com.
She was supposed to be in our chin and jaw class at Aesthetic Mentor. We have locations in Connecticut and in Boston, or just outside of Boston. And Brittany said, why don't we pull someone out of that class who's already signed up for chin and jaw. So we found Danielle, and she's the perfect patient. She's 36, and she just feels like she's got no demarcation between her jaw and her neck. She feels like it just kind of all rolls together, and it's kind of always bothered her. So since she was already scheduled for the class, we figured we'd just do it here. And we're going to actually add Volux to that class because obviously it's the best corrector for lack of chin and jawline. So if you're interested in doing it, we're going to be teaching it at Aesthetic Mentor. You can find us on the web and sign up for our school, sign up for our class. I'll be creating the curriculum for it. I'm going to keep injecting it for the next few weeks to really get good at it and create some more pearls for you guys. But I think from my just brief experience using it, I think we've injected 10 or 12 syringes now. It's really good, and it's really a game changer, I think. So let's sit you up. I'll actually sit you up so that they can get a little bit of a look at you. So what I'm going to have you do is just slowly rotate your head toward Brittany and then back toward us so they can see. Let's zoom in a little bit on that, Angelina, if you could.
Mm-hmm.
And then roll back toward us.
They're asking about product training for MAA members. Maybe you can explain what an MAA member is.
Mm-hmm. So we have a network called Medical Aesthetic Associates, MAA, which basically pulls together a bunch of different nurses, nurse practitioners, physicians. We all work together to share our knowledge. I run the group, I founded it, and it's a sort of an offshoot of our school. So some of the people from Massachusetts who train at our school stay in our network, and they get educational experiences like this. We have Facebook groups, we have lunch and learns, we have MSL meetings with different scientists from different companies who explain the products. We have lots of opportunities to share our network knowledge with each other, our successes, but really more importantly our failures. But the real beauty of it is we practice as a compliant network. So every RN, anytime a nurse injects the patient without a doctor's order or a nurse practitioner's order. They're practicing medicine without a license. So every single nurse in our network puts patient data into a cloud-based EHR, and there's a dashboard nurse practitioner. There's a whole dashboard of them who are looking at the data, and if the data is appropriate, they'll give them an order to treat with neurotoxin or filler or whatever the situation is, so that every nurse is practicing compliantly. Because if we don't practice compliantly, we're putting the entire country and all of our whole space at risk for regulation that we don't need, and perhaps not being allowed to do this anymore. So we're trying to elevate the level of aesthetic knowledge in the space and become the gold standard for education. We've got 20 or 30 courses at our school. We're AMI instructors, so it's kind of the highest level of training. We don't accept everyone into our network, just the people who are really dedicated, like who are in it to win it, who really want to be the best at what they do. So we all combine our knowledge and our experiences and try to create great outcomes with our patients. The people in my network will get the first training. We'll probably be training them within the next week or two. Then we'll open it up to people, the general public, after that. So we encourage you to come in. I think you're going to love this product. It's definitely a game changer. And I think to get a result like that from what you started with, and it's even going to get better, obviously, is very important. But we'll see you back in a few weeks, and we'll give you the before and after. If Danielle's still around, maybe we'll have her come in and talk about her experiences and what it was like for her. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon. Appreciate your attention.